Who gets more nervous before a client meeting?
I suppose when it's the two of us, you're going to handle all the tech stuff.
And then you there to kind of just like, nice intro,
Yeah.
lead to like,
Next steps.
Okay, Justin, for you, how did you come up with the idea of the Academy?
so I think there's two phases to the idea. The first one was when I had the idea for the digital, I always called it the digital side, so like creating the Academy with courses, a community. That's been an idea that I've had for years. Like ever since I started working at a bigger tech company, I just wanted to have my own academy. I thought about it all the time there. And then when I left, I tried to do that on my own. But then the second phase of the idea came when we kind of started working together. And then we were like, okay, the academy is a good idea, but it's just a bit vague. We didn't like how can we do this specifically? And then we started asking questions to like clients and potential clients and other people in the tech industry. And that's when they actually helped us validate the idea. So we had the general sense of, this is the issue. The academy is about teaching people like how can we solve this issue. And I think the idea kind of evolved when we started trying to validate it in the market. So there's kind of like two phases to that. So question, what was your reaction to the first time that I brought up the academy? And then a second part of the question is like, when I said the phase two, when we really started validating it, like did your thinking shift or change?
Yeah, I think when we first met and we started speaking about DevShack and the Academy, I suppose I didn't fully understand it. And I suppose it sounded more like a training aspect, which is quite a big endeavor.
So when you say you didn't understand, like what was the picture in your head when I kept saying like academy, courses, teacher,
Like training, like within your training center.
Okay.
Which it is very different too, which I now realize. And then I think when I realized what the DevShack Academy was really about, I got really, really excited because it was a real world problem that we were trying to fix, which is really cool. And I think that has two sides to it because on the one side, we have organizations who are frustrated with the fact that they have to spend not only money, but time and resources trying to train graduates or get them up to speed. On the other hand, you've got top talent that just needs a break. And I think the Academy is where those two meet.
Okay. So yeah, just going back to that, when I was talking about the academy, obviously was that my inability to articulate an idea? Or did you just see like, oh, there's so many other people doing the same thing? And you couldn't quite see what the specific vision that I had until we started doing it on the ground and you saw, oh, like here's these young devs, like they've got degrees, they're not ready. And then you actually saw us on the ground, like in the classroom, like teaching as an office associate, was at the moment like, okay, now I understand exactly.
Absolutely. Because again, like I think a lot of people might just assume when they think of the Academy as this training center, where it's not that. Like we're not teaching the hard skills. It's not our goal. The goal is the soft skills. And it's just been so incredible to watch clients and businesses, as soon as they see it, they don't see it with clients at the time. They come, we explain it to them, we invite them in, and only when they're sitting with us, with the students, does a light bulb moment happen where they go, I see what you guys are trying to do here. That's cool. So just, who came up with the name DevShack?
Yours truly. So it was originally my idea because like I co-created with one of my friends.
Okay.
There's like the early stages of me actually opening up the company and starting to do all my contracting. I was like, I need a name. And I was very much in this phase of my life where I was like wanting to be a surfer, get the crest. So like I had this idea of like, I want, balance my life between surfing and doing development, like software development. So I was like Surf Shack and then a Dev Shack where I just had like a team of devs just to like throw problems at and they're just going to bash that out. So that was like, wasn't initially a joke, but like that's how it came about. And then we just like fleshed out the brand and the logo. And once I saw the logo, how it worked with the name, I was like, okay, this is actually fun. Because initially I was hesitant, like, are people going to get it? Like, is there a weird connotation? But when we saw the logo like come to life, that's when I was like, it'll work.
And sorry, another question. Was being a surfer prerequisite to joining?
I think if we did that, we'd make the group the circle very small. But yeah, being in Cape Town, there's actually quite a few people who do have that big that. It would be cool because then we could just when the waves are nice, when the computer's off, and go surf.
Just how did working together in the academy change our partnership?
I don't know if it's like changed anything, but it's definitely like spending a lot more time working on it together, like in the trenches, really just helped like solidify like different strengths and weaknesses. Like
the caption ball, trying to keep people so like that, but I'll bring to the table, and then you there to help me like find that focus, that direction, and like really pick up a lot of the tasks that if it was that to me, we would still be like in the idea phase. So I just found like it really cool to work together in that regard and just like find that complementary skill set. And just something I'm like super impressed with was just our ability just to say, like, set an aggressive goal, be like, we haven't really told you, like, let's just do this in like 2 weeks, like let's find deads, let's just go for it. And yeah, I think just having that ability to trust that like I've got a partner that I can rely on like that just get me the courage to like go with this. So it's not that I think anything changed, that's like definitely our working relationship with them like evolved and deeper in that way.
Yeah, I know we didn't really know each other too well before, so it was like a whole.
Yeah. Is there any like things that I came out was like, oh, I've never saw this on a chat before?
No, I think it's like easier for me when we go do client meetings because you have all the technical knowledge. I can just tee things up. They, you know, what I say.
And just throw me under the bus and like, okay, Justin will answer this question. Like, why he?
Where do you see the Academy in like 5 years?
So my long-term thinking around the academy was to get to this point where we become well known for producing high quality software engineers, data engineers, like high quality tech people, so that the name and the brand itself is just the study work there, you know. Anyone that comes out of that academy with someone that we know and trust, like we've seen it, they've done all the hard yards and like they high quality. So that's like the long term goal for me. It's like that part day. More specifically, I'd really like to have cohorts running every quarter in the different vertical stacks. So it's like with 5 years, like we can be doing 3 or 4 of those cohorts every quarter. That would be a place to be.
I suppose for myself, next 5 years for DevChuck Academy is very similar. I think we are very aligned and we really wanted to go. I think that as core though, making sure that DevChuck does keep true to what impact we're trying to make. I think that is something that hasn't tested us too much, but I do think it is something that when we start scaling, it's going to be something that we need to keep on brand.
But even in these initial stages, like just thinking about like what's next step, like how do we make this better? How do we make this a viable, sustainable business model? It's not that it's eating at me, but it's like there's some creative solutions that we're going to have to be put in place so that we don't become just another academic institution, you know. The particular not pain points, but areas that we'll need to focus on, I think, is when we try and duplicate the efforts that I've been doing on the teaching side, we need to find people who have like got the same technical skills, but also the teaching ability. And I think that might be an interesting one to solve. And then I think the key is also partnering up with tech companies who believe in what we're doing, and they benefit from like the outcomes that we produce, and having that like partnership network on the back end to be able to place devs and like put them on projects where they're working and building their careers. Like that's going to be an important thing to solve. An interesting one. Who gets more nervous before a client meeting?
I don't know.
I thought it was interesting because I feel like I get very nervous before any meeting or anything that I need to like speak or present stuff. Like I get super nervous. I'm like, is the presentation right? Does it look good? Like, yeah, I get very nervous. I don't know how you feel when you go into.
I suppose when it's the two of us, it's not too like you're gonna hear all the tech stuff and all that like technical talk. So
and then you there to kind of just like nice intro.
Yeah.
Need to like
Next steps.
Actually a good combination, but yeah, I would say I get more of this, to be honest.
Also,
yeah.
Okay, I'll watch you next time.
Okay, we'll pay close attention to that one. Second question: who or what's the dream corporate client that you'd love to work with?
Oh, the dream corporate client. I mean, my brain just firstly goes to like sports brands and like
Patagonia and those stuff in place.
So that's like aligned with a lot of your personal interests, right? Like trail running.
Exactly. So that would be where I have returned to the tech space in that. So I would, sports brand, a veg brand, anything that comes to outdoors in the mountains. I know you love the sea, but trail running, a sort of adventure sports. That I really think would be a cool guide too.
Yeah, I think if I kind of answer it from my perspective, I think the ideal client would be someone who's really working on interesting problems in the whatever space that they, so let's say as an adventure brand or sports brand, like maybe they're looking at how to improve their product design to reach more trail runs, whatever. So if they had, and they're really good at what they're doing, producing trail running shoes or whatever, but they just need like a technical capability of like data engineers to kind of pass that data. An ideal client for me would be someone who like understands the need for that ability. That's the first thing, and be like, let's go to someone who's like good at what they do, can provide us with the resources that I need, and that like fits into our team augmentation model where we kind of providing that technical talent to help them achieve their goals. And then like second to that they believe in what we're doing, like from the grassroots of like helping develop talent in the younger generation and using that to pull people help people break into the tech industry. If they can like buy into the story, to me, that will be like a really cool client to work with. Yeah.
And just adding to that, I think a big thing that I've noticed, and I think with some of the successes of Tech Shack has been, we've seen a lot of graduate programs, for example, the decline and not being scrapped altogether. And I think a lot of the feeling in the market is that no one's willing to invest in youth talent. I think what Dev Shack Academy has showed is that it's not that they're not willing to invest in young talent, it's the fact that the model potentially is broken. And that when businesses see how we're doing it differently, they get excited again about investing. And everyone we've spoken to is keen to get involved.
Yeah, I think that's the important part. Is like not just working with someone who's just like, obviously runs and sense I'm called in and it needs to be viable, but it's like, okay, there's something bigger here. It's like there's a long-term vision to, help people in South Africa get exposed to opportunities. And I think that's an important part of like free work.
Yeah. And I think adding again the conversations we've had around what projects we want to work on in the cohort, which I think is a really cool thing, is how do we not just solve any real world problem, but actually meaningful problem.
Yeah.
Which is a big conversation.
Yeah, it's something that makes a material difference, like even if it's for one person, but it's like really a solution that helps solve that problem. Yeah.
Just what is one thing that you would have done differently
in this specific iteration of like our pilot program?
Yes.
Not in life in general. We might be
just in the last cohort, and I know it's difficult, but just pick one.
I think there are a couple of things I'd do differently, but one of the things that just pops into my head right now is I had a very particular structure of what I wanted to cover week by week, structure-wise. But what did I realize, like when it came to the first session, the second session was like teaching a topic that I wanted to go into, is that it needs to be way more dynamic, where I thought I was teaching at this level and it's like there's a group of 6 people with different skill sets and backgrounds. Like some people don't even know what Docker is. Some people have been using Docker for a year, and I'm like, okay, we actually need to tailor this in a very dynamic way, where it's like the broad topic might be in place, but we actually might need to assess it in real time and be like, okay, cool, this is the real gaps that we need to bridge in knowledge wise, or instead of going on and on about like teaching us by slides, maybe let's just like on the fly spin up a little project and like work through it together. So I think that lesson for me was like it needs to be way more dynamic and just like work within a framework, but would kind of have space to kind of
be agile.
Yeah, be agile and just adapt to the different levels. The other thing is like having an AI policy up front. That was something that only kind of clicked in my brain 4 weeks, maybe 3 weeks in. I just realized that this generation is like, I've heard this term like they're AI native. So they're using LLMs and ChatGPT as their primary source of search. So instead of like, we used to like Google things or go on Stack Overflow when I was planning. They're going to go straight to ChatGPT. But now it raises this interesting question for me. Do we allow them to like
to do that and rely on it? And are they like outsourcing their thinking? Are we losing the opportunity for them to like learn critical thinking skills, or is it here to stay and we just like adapt to it and how we use it? So I think that's a big lesson for me, is like having a clearer stance on how we want to embrace AI, LLMs, by code generation. Yeah, so those are two things that come to mind.
Hence, a lot of talk around that AI and how we can be using it in terms of our course. I think we come up with some cool ideas as well, which I'm really excited that we can use in the next cohort.
Yeah, 100%. I've got a much clearer idea now, but also these things are evolving and changing so fast, and I don't really have one particular set of opinion whether it's a good or bad thing. I'm realizing we just have to figure out how to use this in a smart way, and that's what we'll do in the next version of the Academy or the cohorts that we run. Describe each other's leadership style.
Oh, your leadership style. I think you are very much, I think you may be similar in this regard, in terms of you're not telling anybody sort of how to lead. You're always showing, leading by example, which the graduates have gravitated towards. It was so clear. Everybody, just getting the feedback from some of the graduates and how they spoke about how, you don't talk about how knowledgeable you are or things that you achieved, the things that you've done, which is a really impressive list, but the graduates just working with you and how you view.
I think from the way I see it from my perspective on your leadership style, I think like you much more in tune with people. Like you've got this ability to I don't know, relate to them, not in a better way, but it's just like in a way that's like a bit different to me. I'm kind of like, okay, this is like I'm leading by example, and I'm kind of like going to things, but I sometimes forget that there's like a very human element, like someone might be struggling with the pace or whatever, and it's just I've noticed that like you constantly reminded me that okay, there are other aspects too, so that's something that shines from your leadership style. But also you're very I think you also have like this expectation of like people must be driven, like they must want to be better, and like you have this ability of getting people to want to do that on their own, not by like forcing them to do it, keep like inspiring me to do it. So that was interesting.
It's very nice.
Who's more detail oriented?
There was a buzzer.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy one to answer, I think. Have you always been?
No, I wasn't. This is why when people say to me like admin or things like that, it's a skill I had to learn. I used to hate detail.
Like what made you need to learn that skill?
A very intimidating manager in my first job.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. So was that to learn by necessity there? Yeah, it is an interesting one, and just to like be a bit more clear, because a lot of people, like software developers, like one of the prerequisites is to be like very detail oriented. So it's a bit weird that like I'm saying I'm not detail oriented at all. It's like more in like general admin stuff and planning and how to like structure days and kind of like that's not where at the. But yeah, there are certain areas like when I'm like in my actual work that I do, I'm like very specific about.
You're a perfectionist. Like you have a lot of attention to detail.
Yeah, it's sometimes like not quite living up to that. I'm like, it's not quite there, but yeah.
What is the biggest success that you're proud of in the last cohort?
It's hard to pin it down to one specific. There's two things that pop into my head, so I don't know which one trumps other. But the first one is, and it's something like Sean was saying to us when we had a group meeting, is just taking that step from idea to reality. Is like that was a huge thing for me, and like that's like a personal hurdle that like I'm really proud of. Just taking a step and like making it happen. So that like in of itself is like super. See that as a huge success. But the other thing is being able to, as we were going through the academy, we were like spreading the word, we were like posting stuff on social media, sending out the message, and just through our own network, people started getting very interested in what we were doing, and they're just like backing us, like, oh, this is so interesting. And then when Tom reached out from Cloudsimmers, and we were able to, he's like, Japs, I've got a project, like let's give one of your grads, some experience. Let's go. It's like we
took someone from the academy who was like struggling to find his feet in the tech industry. You know, we're like 4 weeks in, he got placed on a project at a really successful company. You know, like we were building really cool things. He got experience, they like what he's doing. Like, to me, that's a huge success. Like it's like validating the idea, but also just like on a human level, it's like you've helped someone, you know, like get off their feet. So big.
Yeah. And I agree with you on that. I think for me as well, without a doubt, the biggest success is, and it sounds work. Yeah. A little bit redundant that people say these things, but you really are able to just make small offers, help somebody.
Just watching the graduates, and also how cool to be surrounded by young people who are so curious and so driven. I know when we're like recruiting for this and looking for individuals, like how do we filter, how to pick these guys, because there are so many people looking for a break. But that's curiosity, that's just passion for tech.
Yeah,
has been so cool to watch.
That was a very interesting thing for me to kind of realize as we're going through how they think very differently to how I think. So it's actually a good thing to have in any type of group dynamic, and they see the world differently. That is, like, they approach problems differently, and a few times I got very surprised. Like, well, that's an interesting way to solve that or approach that, you know. And there's like maybe a little bit of like advice and guidance to finesse it. It was like this quite a creative idea. Who's more focused on the day-to-day and who handles the bigger picture?
Oh, I think I see you as the visionary. This is your baby, your idea. And I think my role in this is really to just put the structures, put the partnerships, the processes in place to make that all come alive. So maybe day to day myself.
Yeah, I think it's just because of like my experience on the tech side, maybe just like have that idea of like where this could go and how things could work, and then
But my technical ability has taken a steep learning curve.
Hey, same words like LLM and machine learning. You understand the nuance between AI.
Getting there. Wait when it's cold.
Okay, just describe 2025 for the Deep Sharing Academy in one word.
Proud.
Oh, I like that. And again, I think the crazy idea, when we spoke about this for a while, and like how we're going to build this, and then you took a trip to Colorado, decided to leave the country and our time zone, and decided that we were going to get this thing off the ground in like 3 weeks. It was a bit stressful, but
it was in that quiet time where I was like, okay, we got to do this. Let's just do it. So I felt so rested. I was like, you can make it.
do this.
No problem.
Yeah. And then another question from my side: what surprised you the most about the first cohort?
But I was very surprised at like how successful we were with our like small goal. Like we didn't have these huge goals, but we wanted to get 2 devs into the cohort, and we had 6. Like, it's not that I was surprised about it, but it definitely was like, wow. So when we put our head to something, like things can happen.
And there were lots of people who came from both the graduate side and the
a lot of interest. So I guess that was surprising in a way, where we had this idea, and it was like, oh, okay, it's like, okay, this is an issue, and maybe it is a little bit bigger than what we initially thought.
Joe, we tested it. We done all the client interviews, but this was something that actually was a their own.
Yeah, another thing that was surprising to me was how it didn't matter if someone had a computer science degree or diploma or came from it's like, no matter who the person was or what they studied, everyone had a gap in their knowledge somewhere. Where it's like, it may not be the same thing, but I think like, okay, cool, we're teaching Docker. Like, everyone should know, or source control, like everyone should know this. Like 3 out of the 6 knew what I was talking about. 3 had no clue what I was talking about. I was a bit surprised that like in a 3-year degree, computer science, people weren't using source control.
And some of them come from the same universities, so you would expect they would never so.
So I mean, that's not to say like anything bad about that. It's just interesting how the learning curve of someone in the development industry, like there's a bunch of it. So it's like first getting through the syntax and all of that is those secondary supplementary skills, which are important to companies who are in the space, is like, sometimes they just get like left by the wayside because there is just so much to do. So I was quite surprised by some of those gaps in my knowledge here. So there's a question for both of us. When did you realize that we are onto something here?
I'm trying to think of my aha moment. I mean, an obvious one is when Nazir was pulled out of the program early and placed onto clients. That I thought we were definitely onto something. And then 2 weeks later, him on client, we had really positive feedback. Yeah, those are two sort of standout moments.
Yeah, I think like when we closed that loop, that was like, okay, we proved this. Like
You run it into end.
Yeah, okay. That was it, like door.
I think so.
Like I can. For me, it was just a surefire from the beginning. But like, since it was the idea, man, I just knew it was gonna work. So, no. All jokes aside, though, for me, it wasn't like one specific moment of realization. There's a couple of things that just like started stacking up. So, the first thing is like when we started speaking to other people in the industry, even like my ex-colleagues or people I worked with, and like very technical people, and they're like, yeah, this is a big problem. Like then I was like, okay, it's like that realization started coming. And then when we spoke to like Richfield or some of the like universities, and they're like, this is something that's like we need to do at like, I was like the second moment. But then the third one for me was a kind of like drove the nail home, like, or drove the lesson home for me, and like sparked that realization was when I saw some of the students realize that it wasn't just the technical stuff. When I was like, these are the other skills that you need to make it work. And like, I've done it. I've made it like I've had a successful career. I've seen it. And as soon as I started applying, like they would come to me and like, this, I didn't know about this. Like, this is really helpful. Like, thank you for putting us together. It just made me realize like, this is solving a problem on multiple facets where it's like each person is like saying that this is a problem. And like, when we went through the solution, the graduate like, yeah, we definitely needed this just to like help us get that last bit of preparation to feel confident to get their career on the right track.
Yeah, I think you're so right there. It's such and that's why when we spoke about getting the clients to come and sit and see what we're doing, it's only, I think, when you see it, do you really get the full impact of like what we're creating.
Yeah, when you see a group of 6 devs in a stand-up and it's like being run smoothly, and these are juniors and they're like tackling problems and they've got their tickets and their source control and there's like engineering discussion, like people can say, okay, we're doing it's the real thing.
And also the way you explain communication. I mean, we hear this all the time. Be a good communicator.
Yeah.
What does that actually mean? And what does that mean in the tech space? And it's been interesting to watch you relate it from bigger organizations to smaller organizations and different, getting to the team sizes. I think when they really understand how this is going to progress their career, it really is a penny drop moment for them. I suppose from the last 6 to 8 weeks of the cohort, how do you see AI played out in the tech space?
Yeah, so we spoke a little bit about our insights of how to use AI in the like with teaching and our policies around, code generation and that through LLMs. But I think the broader question about how it's going to play out in the tech space is an interesting one. And if I just like look around at the narrative of what people are speaking about, it's all about is LLMs and generative AI going to replace software development and engineers as like a profession? Like that's the huge debate. Every man and his dog has an opinion about that. There's the camp of like, yeah, start finding a new career now, like it's going to be over. And there's another camp of just like, people are crazy to think like, it's like good up until the point, but if you really look at it in detail, what it's generating is like really not good at all. So it's like, who's right or who's wrong? And I just have to take this approach of like a little bit of humility and be like, I am not at the bleeding edge of like AI research or even in a geographical location where we're at the forefront of like pioneer models and this kind of thing. So we have to I had to take this approach of like, let's use what's in front of us, make like common sense decisions about how to use it,
well, how do you use it efficiently? What is it good for? What is it not good for? And then start to integrate that into our ways of work as developers. I just try and take a very common sense approach to it, and it's hard to predict where everything's going to go. I just had to take that approach of let's use what's in front of us, and how do we maximize what the tools that are there to our potential.
Yeah, because I think a lot of talk in the industry at the moment is, like you said, how are, we're going to create juniors who are going to use AI to, accelerate their careers. Because I don't think they're going to be replaced. I do think that they're going to, like you said, they're native to the AI learning models.
I think the hard thing with the juniors is what I'm seeing is that to learn and get really good and become a specialist at software development or whatever, you really have to go through this phase of it's a painful phase of learning where it's line by line you have to debug things and understand what's going on at a deep level. That's what makes you really understand things at its core. And my only question for juniors is are they skipping that phase because things are just generated too easily, and then there's all this output that looks great, but do they understand the nuance of oh, this is why this function would be bad, or if this design pattern's not great? They don't have that context yet, which it comes with experience. So that's a really interesting question of how's that going to affect them, and is that going to make it harder for juniors to get into the industry? But then on the flip side is are we going to see a generation of developers who are just approaching wildly differently to how we've done it in the past with the tools that they had? Is it going to speed up their learning process, and with time they're going to understand things, and are they exposed to way more different ways of doing things that we just not afraid to? So I know it's a bit vague, but it's I kind of have this approach of we're going to have to see, but we shouldn't shy away from not doing it. It'd be we're not going to run cohorts, or we're not going to help juniors get into the industry because the industry is going to be dead. I think that's bizarre, to be honest.
No, I agree with you. Can you tell me a little, how are you, I suppose, implementing this in the e-commerce the moment?
Yeah, so I at this particular point in time, want to have an adoptive approach. I want them to use it, see how they use it, and then maybe give them feedback of okay, you've used this to generate this specific piece of code, but it's just helping them spot the differences, and that's going to help reinforce learning. So spot the issues that may exist. That's from just having years of experience as a senior, but then also just driving the point home of they need to test what the output, it's so it's how to use it in their workflow, right? That's I think what we need to focus on in the Academy. It's when to use it, when not to use it, when to have maybe a framework of okay, prototype quickly, but then refine it, get peer reviews, get a senior review. So it's really a framework for adopting it in a way to be pro code generation from others. So why should companies and corporates be interested in working with us and what we do?
I think companies and corporates be working with DevShot Academy for a couple of things. I think the obvious thing that we do solve, like I spoke about earlier, of graduate programs obviously taking a bit of a hit in a bit of a decline. But DevShot Academy solves a problem for our DevShot house on its own in terms of we staff our business from this amazing academy. We've designed it so that instead of having 6 months of firm for a graduate to get up to speed or billable, we, really try to condense that as quickly as possible. The other 2 points that the academy really help with is such a wonderful recruitment process. You get to spend 10 weeks with the graduates. You get to understand them. You get to see how they work. You get to look at strengths and weaknesses, which is really unique because in the recruitment space, you don't get an opportunity. You have 1, 2, maybe a technical interview. And then on the other side, in terms of businesses shortening that 6-month up to speed process, it also acts as an onboarding process. We really can build the academy to fit your tech stack. We can build the academy to fit your onboarding process so that in this 3-month process, you've got somebody who's really up and running in a much shorter space of time.
Yeah, and I think just to speak a little bit more to that point of, you know, a lot of these companies that could be potential clients for us or partners that we work with are very focused on what they build. They don't necessarily have time to build their own program to help like junior talent come into their company. And this could be a way for them to kind of have a really good like place and a way to do that in a way where it allows us to become experts at that, and they can obviously benefit from that down the line.
The biggest comment we get is that companies don't have enough senior staff to be able to mentor juniors.
Yeah, so busy like doing work and delivering. So yeah, I think that's an important part.
Just if there are any devs or juniors, graduates who are looking to learn more about DevShack or stay connected or get to know you a bit better, what is the best way to go about that?
So I think first and foremost, like just follow us on LinkedIn. That would be the first place, because we also in the background we working on putting a community together, because I think that's going to be the best solution for this is get, you know, like-minded people who are struggling with the same kind of issues, you know, where might just like lacking the confidence to pass that interview, or you're a bit lost in terms of what tech stack you want to work with. Like, come into the community where there's people who are in the same kind of boat as you are, but then in the community, what we're going to work on providing is access to senior devs who have walked the walk, they've got the experience, they'll be able to answer your questions. In addition to that, there will be like learning material and coursework, and it's just a good place for a young aspiring dev to be in, and I think that will be a great place to connect and keep up to the ongoing work that we're going to do to like we're on this mission to help people help young devs break into the tech industry, and I think that will be a great place for someone like that to be in.